What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe show. As always, I'd like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. And as always, I like to say this is the home of epic conversations, and this is the place for epic conversations. And it's so good to have a stranger back. A stranger is back in town. It is so good to have her back in town. So let me give a little background. For a little while last year, I was very blessed to have a young lady from Rockford, Illinois on the Dr. Vibe show. We called it something special. We called it Stuff, which is conversations between a black lady and a black man and giving their POVs on current events. Now, this lady is very busy, and I think she competes with her daughter on keeping very busy. So she had to take some time off because she'll tell you why. I'm not going to speak for her, but we're both a little under the weather. She is losing her voice. I've got a little bit of a sinus infection, but we said, you know what, we're going to find a way and get it done anyways. So let me reintroduce you to the beautiful, wonderful, and talented Jazz Keys. What is up?
Hey, I'm so excited to be back. I don't know if my voice is carrying. I'm hoping. I just lost it. But nonetheless, we decided to push through, and I'm extremely excited to be here, to be back, and to reignite these stuff conversations from your point of view, my point of view, and then those who contribute or participate. Just happy to be back to have epic conversations. So ready to kick off this new year.
Absolutely. And I don't want to strain your voice too much, but what have you been up to over the last few months? You haven't been staying still.
No. In October, I opened up a community co-work space in my city, and it's called The Local. And so it has just been, it's not a complaint from a business owner, of course, but it's just been taking off. And so I've just been pulled in multiple different directions, just sustaining and growing and getting my feet wet with this new business venture, the community co-work space. And then, of course, my daughter's had her own projects. And then I've been planning a mother-daughter conference in Atlanta and just doing some writing. And it's just been crazy. That's all I have. So kind of trying to streamline and slow things down a little bit. But yeah.
Well, you know what? I'm so proud of you and your daughter. All the wonderful things that you're doing. I want to wish you both a blessed and highly favored new year. You, your daughter, your family, your team, your center. We just wish some blessings over during 2018, and we know there's going to be a lot of successes along the way.
Beautiful. I warmly receive those and return them to you. Absolutely.
Wonderful, wonderful. We usually we usually do stuff on Wednesdays, but Jazz and I had a conversation a few weeks ago. Say, hey, is there any way we can do one close to the new year? And then we've got something planned a few Wednesdays from now. So he said, sure, no problem. So this is a special stuff epic conversation, and it's interesting. We didn't plan it this way, but our conversation topic tonight is 2018 and the rise of the black woman. And ironically, some lady named Oprah dropped the mic last night doing her presentation or receiving the Cecil B. DeMille Award at the Golden Globes. And what has been trending like crazy is hashtag 2020 Oprah.
I know.
And it's and I was just watching a report on television that, you know, she's just listening, but a lot of people in the Democratic Party are wanting her to run. Now, wow, is that a way to kick off the year 2018 for black women like no other?
All the way. So I'll just be honest and say I did not get to actually watch the Golden Globes, nor did I see it. The other thing about it is I tend to be the kind of person when like those powerful speeches happen or those moments, I like to get in my zone. I don't like anybody around. I like to just focus in and like really give my full attention. So I'm gonna wait till everybody is sleeping or everybody's out of this building, and me and Oprah gonna have our moment. Nonetheless, I can only imagine how powerful the speech was, and then for it to kind of trickle over and begin the conversation of a presidency or a candidate in an election is like right now we're all extremely desperate for somebody to into office that is actually qualified. And so I think I would be shocked if she actually ran. But I'm 100% team hashtag team Oprah team take over the nation team by Trump. I'm for all of that. So if that actually is something that comes into fruition, I don't think anybody in this nation would be disappointed because she's just so bomb.
All right. All right. Well, I think that looking at last year, and it really started to generate a lot of momentum. And near the end of last year, what happened in I believe, the Georgia election, where Doug Jones won his seat, and all of a sudden you hear this media report saying, well, black women voted 98%, and the reports came out there that it was black women that drove him over the top. Let alone, and I got to put it in there too, black men voted over 90% for him too, but it seemed that the black woman was being focused on, and you do a lot of coaching, mentorship of black women. What have you seen over the last year or so, like in 2017, to make it such an exciting time for black women in 2018?
Yeah, I think that what's happening with black women is we are refusing to let anyone else control our narrative. And so what you're seeing is us coming up and being combative against all the things and stereotypes and media portrayals and the agendas that suggest that we are anything less than magic. And so what's happening is we've never really had or been in a position to publicly assert ourselves in the way that we have as of recent. And so we are just demanding on all fronts to be heard, to be respected, to be acknowledged, to be considered. We're commanding in the realms of education, in the realms of entrepreneurship. We are redefining motherhood in the context of, we're realizing, like, I can chase my dreams and I can be a great mother. And so what's happening, I think, is that we've always internally knew that we were powerful, but I think what the rise up is we are only allowing our stories and our identities to be determined by us. And so that's where you're starting to see just something completely different happen, and I'm just all for it.
Was this a build-up? Were there a series of events that you felt had just led to this anticipation? Because I live here in Toronto, and I was reading an article in the Toronto Star, and they had some of their political columnists do a look back at 2017 and a projection of 2018, and one of the columnists, Tiffany Gooch, who's been on the Dr. Vibe show, said, they asked all of them, what to look out for in 2018, and she said black women.
Yeah.
So do you feel the same in 2018?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think so. Speaking on politics, and then I'll kind of generalize it or spread it across different sectors. But politics, I think what's happening is, like, black women put on the superwoman cape for everyone, but we specifically stand on the front lines for black men, even when it's not acknowledged or necessarily recognized. We are the strongest advocates for justice. And so I think what happened is maybe we even came to the forefront in the political realm to fight for justice for all of the police brutality and the black killings that you were seeing, and refusing to allow these things to go uncharged or unchallenged. And so in the political space, we moved to the forefront because we recognize that, we can make a lot of noise, we can rally behind a lot of things, but at the end of the day, we got to be there advocating for law change. We have to be there advocating and sitting at the table where the decisions are being made. And so that's where I feel like black women have had a strong voice of advocacy. And as far as just across the board, I think it's that same thing. I think we've been so restricted and so oppressed, or from not being able to just stand in our full selves. And so at this point, black women have kind of created this camaraderie amongst each other. So now we have these virtual sisterhoods, or these sisterhoods that are rallying around causes and support, which allow us to kind of move nations. And then we kind of have these newfound love for our melanin and ourselves and our natural hair and our boldness. And so you combine all those things, and what you're seeing is the rise of the Black woman.
Do you think that it's always been there for Black women to take the lead? Because I asked one of my longtime friends about this situation, and he said, no surprise. No surprise, because he seems that there's always been, it's been more, how can I put it? The environment has been there for Black women to lead, and they've always been the leaders when it comes to Black communities. So would you, or Black environment, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think that women have always been the needle movers. Like, women have always been the leaders. I think that, like, it's never been about being on the forefront, or it's never been about being in the limelight. It's never been about the attention. It's always been about what's best for us, our children, our men, our communities. And so we've been doing so much of these things without, you know, in a very humble or a very, like, you know, meek and modest spirit. And so one time don't really call for that at this point, numero uno. But also, I think women are okay now with being powerful and being bold and being passionate and being assertive and not being apologetic about it. So I'm not surprised at all, because whether it be in our home or in our communities, we have been the needle movers, and we have been the paradigm shifters. And so it's just you, and I say you meaning the world is just getting a view inside of how we've sustained all of these years.
So here I go. How do you feel this could potentially, and I say the word potentially, affect relationships between Black men and Black women?
Oh my gosh. So I try not to ever get sucked into like social media debates, because I'm like one of those, like, once it's something that just like makes me go there, I'm a soapbox kind of person. I can like literally go all day. So I'm like, let me not. So I've been very good about doing that thus far. But I actually had a friend tag me in a video, and excuse me, I don't remember what the platform is that released this video, but it was a video about how Black women are not getting married or staying single. And they were, you know, in my opinion, and I'm not saying that this is what the intentions, but I think a lot of the dialogue behind Black women in relationships are always, in one way or another, kind of pushing the agenda that it's something wrong with Black women as opposed to other races or other women. So we're always too aggressive, too assertive, too independent, too educated. We're always too much of something.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that by not recognizing that us being powerful or us being Oprah Winfrey, you know, badass and all those things are actually a benefit, instead of making it where the more successful a Black woman becomes, the more she has to be concerned about her ability to find a mate, it's just a harmful dialogue, because it always puts us in a position of being concerned about whether or not we can actually have it all, because we are kind of rising in our careers and in our education and in our positions of power. And so it's going to take us restructuring our understanding of Black man and Black woman's relationship.
Yeah, and I've let you do too much talking, so I'm going to give you a few seconds break here. I know you have a lot to share on this conversation piece as always, but I want to give you a little bit of a break. As a Black man, I have no concerns about Black women going forward. I'm just hoping that it's with more people, when you're unified, you have more strength. And I'm not saying we don't need everyone unified, but the thing is, I just think that there are partnerships that can be formed.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying, that partnerships can be formed. I fully believe that, yes, Black women, it's a great time and they have a great opportunity. I just don't want to have black men who deserve to be included left behind.
No, and I think, speaking from the perspective of a black woman, I think the idea has always been for it to be all encompassing. I think it's always been to, merge forces and to be mighty with a partner and to be a helpmeet and to have that reciprocated. I think that's always been the conversation or always been the intention. When I say we need to shift our understanding or our perspective, I mean this idea that uh, 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 that a black woman being in power, being in leadership, or being educated, or so on and so forth, makes her less desirable or less meritable or less, I don't even know if meritable is a word, but less likely to be married because she is too this or too that or too much. And I feel like we're the only, women who are subjected to that kind of conversation. When Latino women are aggressive and assertive, it's sexy, it's fiery, it's spicy, and so we're always held in comparison, and that's never done in our favor. And so I hope that as the rise of the black woman comes the respect for, we want women, black women, to be as powerful as they can be, and we love her, and she's still able to be home and be, a wife and be a mother, and she doesn't have to have one or the other.
Understood. Understood. Yeah. What? How have? And I just want to look at this as it's the rise of the black woman. How have you? What things have you noticed over the years of changes in black women? Because you've coached numbers of black women. What changes are you seeing on the positive end that you're not surprised about this? You've seen it coming. What sort of things have you seen over the years to perpetuate this movement?
So I think, one, no matter who the woman is, the moment a woman taps into who she is, she becomes uh, a force to be reckoned with. So I think that when we started seeing the movement of loving dark skin and not telling me I'm beautiful for a dark skinned girl, and embracing our melanin and beginning to really love our skin, I feel like that was kind of a pivotal point in embracing the fact that we don't have to no longer be held by European standards of beauty. So I feel like that was one movement that was like, okay, oh my God, black women are going to start seeing these full lips and these wide noses and our hips and all these things and our natural hair as beautiful, and that in itself is empowering. But I also believe that some of some of the things that have been embedded in us, and I mean us meaning in a collective or from young ages, more so in the generations before mine, most definitely, was the idea that like women, your womanhood is defined by marriage or defined by being a stay-at-home mom, and those positions in themselves are by far some of the hardest working women I've ever met in my life. I could never do what a stay-at-home mom does. So kudos to them. But I think the dialogue has changed in the sense of the woman who stays home with her children is equally a woman and equally of value to her family as the woman who's, pushing for her career or in entrepreneurship or balancing it all. And so I think once we begin to kind of have these conversations that no longer hold us to the guilt of not being stay-at-home moms or, maybe not marrying until later in life or not choosing to have children or pursuing education and career before family. I think once those conversations started happening and there wasn't guilt centered around it, there was inevitably going to be this change where it's like, I get to choose my own path despite what, I've been taught or told womanhood is. And so the redefining of womanhood is what made this inevitable.
You had mentioned about ladies of the with black women of the past. Excuse me. What are some of the things that you've learned either from women that you have met in your earlier days or just women in general? What are some of the things that you've learned that you could share with black women as this year of excitement, potential excitement, is on the cusp?
Well, I think a lot of times what's ingrained in us wasn't done so necessarily intentionally. So even for me growing up, and I think I was on the cusp of this change happening, and I'm 31. But I think there was just this overall notion that a woman's validation was tied to maybe marriage, and so that was the first and foremost, married and children. Um, and so I think for me, once the conversation started happening that give you the ability to decide what it is you want for your life and be solid and firm in that, it gives you another sense of empowerment. And so I began to kind of embrace this idea that I'm an unconventional mother of a black girl, of a black child, and focusing in on that self love and self care. So for me, one of the biggest components is women are taught to sacrifice it all, right? We're taught that we are to show up and be these, bold and beautiful and radiant and amazing spirits for everyone else, our families, our community, our homes, our husbands, our children. But no one ever tells us that, you know, it's not necessarily about sacrificing it all at your expense. And so learning to love self, learning to cape for yourself, learning to, be a superwoman for yourself is powerful. And so that becomes a conversation that I always impress upon women is, all of those things are important, but who's going to save you, the superwoman? And so the self love component, the radical self love, self care is vital.
Who are some of the black women, past, present, that you look up to or have looked up to?
Um, I think I look up to a variety of different women. One, of course, I love Miss Maya Angelou, and that's just me being a writer. But I love the women of like civil rights, and even the women that were bold in spearheading, freeing slaves. And for me, those are the women that are you can see their spirits reincarnated in, women now that are just standing so bold and so fiercely for what's right. And so for me, I always look at the women who are faced with trauma and obstacles and barriers and the impossible, and they figure out how to just rise above it, how to stand firm and move forward and the shifting generations, and then not being afraid to tell their stories. So women like Oprah are powerful because Oprah's not afraid to say, I've been abused, I've been, this, I've been this, I came from this kind of background, and still, I triumphed and I rose. And so those are the women that inspire me the most.
Nice, nice. When you talk to black women these days, what do they say they're excited about, or what are they excited about?
I think black women are excited about finding their voice, and I mean like yes, individual voice, but finding this collective voice that results in a sisterhood that says, you don't have to be angry about this by yourself. You don't have to stand for this alone. You don't have to fight for this right, solo. It's like this new space that we're existing in, whether it's not necessarily physically, but I can look to the right and look to the left of me, and I can find camaraderie. And so I think it's an excitement about sisterhood, and the virtual world allows us to have that. I think it is, in the words of Issa Rae, like I'm celebrating, I'm coming for everybody black. It's looking and seeing other women, other black women succeeding. And for those who are pure in heart and really about the collective empowerment of our community, we love seeing other sisters shine. And so I think that is an exciting time to see, like, we're shattering the glass ceilings, and, we're demanding everything that we deserve. And so every time one of us pushes past something that was designed to stop us, it is another step in our overall liberation. And that's the exciting part.
So as 2018 comes and goes onward, what do black women need to be careful about and not to do?
Oh, that's a good question. I think I think, ooh, that's a really good question.
I try.
No, I think it's still going to be something that is, like, the concept is very hard to break. And I know this from dealing with women from in every capacity, but the idea that it's okay to neglect yourself. So I think that's something to be very, very cognizant of, that while we are, rallying for this or rising our careers or balancing, motherhood and marriage and, prosperity and community, and we're juggling it with what seems so effortlessly, not to forget that we are equally important. And if the vessel is not healthy, then we can't, pour out and sustain others. So women, and in particular Black women, are so self-sacrificing that it almost takes a lot to get them to wrap their minds, and them, I mean me as well, around prioritizing self sometimes. And so being self-focused and self-nurturing is going to be powerful and something that can't be forgotten in 2018.
Do you have any questions for me on this topic? You've been on fire.
Well, this is one of those topics that gets me on my soapbox. I think for me, my question would be kind of on the other side is, as a Black man watching this, what do you see, or what do you guys think, and how are you interpreting it? Do you notice this movement, and what does it do to empower or disempower you guys?
Great question. I notice it. I've seen it for a long time, and I'll drill down. I don't hear too many Black men talking about it. They're sitting in the audience. I do get a concern that, as I mentioned earlier, is this going to cause a drift between Black men and Black women? That's the thing I'm concerned about, because if it's not being discussed, I'm wondering what's going on in a Black man's mind about this. Yeah. Because there's that thing about, tradition, and the man should be this and that. The world's changed. The world has definitely changed. I get concerned, though, and I'd asked your input on that. I don't want Black women to become too competitive with each other.
Yeah, you know what? I feel like there's a few things. I feel like in speaking to tradition and how things have been, or how things have been embedded in us that they should be, that's very much a concern. That how are Black men going to adjust to, like, maybe it's okay to just be the supporting partner for a minute, or the supporting,
I agree with that, and it's okay, but can they handle that?
Right. So that becomes the concern, is this is something so drastically different.
Well, you know what? Some people would say that if you look at a lot of the great causes in Black history, a lot of them were led by women. Right. So, but it's a different time. I think a little bit of a different time, and a lot of shift now. And I agree with you. And as I said, that yes, they'll accept it on the outside, but are they accepting it on the inside?
Right. And the other thing about it is, if we reflect on history, we can truly say that there was a presence of the Black woman, and she was as mighty in some of these movements. But if we really touch into history pages, or even the way that it's being taught in schools and whatever the case may be, women are not nearly mentioned with the same magnitude of influence as men. So it's like, thank you for this Black woman, or thank you for this Black woman, but the emphasis flows on, like, how powerful the men were. And so even that is one of those, like, subconscious things that kind of gets embedded, that you don't even recognize necessarily until you start doing the digging and realize, like, oh no, they were partners in, let's just say, the civil rights movement, or Martin Luther King couldn't have done it without Coretta, or
right.
It's more mentioned that Coretta was the wife of Martin than it was maybe an equal partner or equal push in the civil rights movement. And so that's what I mean, is women have, taken that kind of side role of, yes, I contributed, but I'm more of a help me. I don't know necessarily if, and I'm not saying everyone's going to be a Stedman, I'm not saying that, but I don't think as a across the board that maybe we're ready for that shift
Yeah.
as a community.
Yeah.
Um,
That's what that's my concern. Are are black men ready for it? And I don't mean, again, externally ready. I don't want to hear
yeah,
that. Yeah, there's a oh yeah okay. There's also an oh yeah okay in here too.
yeah.
But that trend,
This seems so frail.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I think too, socioeconomically, the change has been happening for many years. But I think now, as you mentioned earlier on, with the world of social media, it's gone up a notch. And as I said, at one of the conversations, probably the most viewed conversation I've had on YouTube many years ago, I had Dr. Tommy Curry and Zaza Ali, and the title of the conversation was "Are Black Women Leaving Black Men Behind?"
And I think that's a powerful conversation because it's the reality. And I feel like some of that like becoming very or harmful attention or just becoming very abrasive about it comes from that fear of being left behind. And I can just speak from black women in the sense of it's not this desire to rise and leave the black man. It's really wanting to build and have, something that is sustainable for both of us and being able to be a powerful woman without feeling like I'm in a position where it could cost me my family or cost me my marriage because I'm, pursuing further education. I'm making more money. I'm in the home less. And so all these conversations, um, I don't know if they're necessarily happening from a state of understanding as much as it is a state of keeping things the way that people are very comfortable in. And that's the other part of black women are not necessarily willing to have those conversations where it's to be made comfortable as much as it is. We're willing to have a conversation of understanding, how do we work on this without it being my oppression that has to be the sacrifice.
That is going to be a whole. It's going to be a big concern, and it always has been. But I think I'm waiting for it to really get out in the open. I don't think it's gotten out in the open yet.
Yeah, no.
I'm seeing this. I've seen this movement.
Yeah, I told you about a video that was saying black women are the least likely to get married and all this stuff, and I think even that kind of subtly gives this idea that something wrong with us and that it's all these things that are happening for us on the rise, and it kind of creates this correlation that doesn't really exist between rising and singlehood, and so that kind of it makes it very complicated to try to figure out how do you get it all.
Well, I don't think everyone has it all, but it's one of those things that sacrifices and decisions are made along the way, and it's going to be. As I said, I'm sitting watching this, and this has been on my mind for many years because I've seen the rise of black women, and it's interesting because sometimes I will speak with black women, and I remember for years ago I had a conversation online with a group of black women, and they talked about black women's relationships with each other.
Mm-hmm.
So this is going to be a really interesting time to see if and I think everyone in the black environment, we need to focus on the big picture.
Well, I think in the black environment, there was a lot of tension amongst women. One, if your whole sense of being is tied to marriage and family, and you're all kind of fishing out the same pool, a lot of that tension is going to exist when it comes to mate finding and seeking and things like that. But additionally, I think that we've all been kind of trained to have a lack of trust amongst one another. So if I can't trust, the black woman, when I can't trust myself, if I can't trust the black woman, then naturally I don't feel anything about entering into this false competition with her because we are not one and the same. She's this, I'm this. And so this new movement has started creating this thing where it's I'm her, she's me. And so when we begin to see it like that, where she wins, I win, she wins, you lessen some of that competition and create these things that's all right, I'm going to start passing what I know on to you, sis, because I want you to rise too. So you start to see a lot of dialogue where we're calling each other sis, and we're praising each other's, accomplishments, and we're complimenting each other's beauty, and we're much more comfortable because we are starting to tear down this idea that we can't trust one another.
Well, I think I've maximized your voice. And I hope that shirt says straight out of jazz.
It says straight out of bed.
Ah! That's good stuff. Well, Jazz, we don't want to tax either of our voices anymore. I think we've done an outstanding job on the limited physical resources we both have. It's really good to have you back. It's really good to have you. Even though she isn't physically there, I know she's in another room. Your daughter back and stuff. And we are back on in a few weeks' time. Back on our Wednesday rotation. In regards to what we thought, especially, it's still a little bit into 2018, and all the talk about the rise of the black woman. We thought it would be great to have this conversation tonight. Jazz, I'd like to say thank you for taking the time as usual. If people want to get in touch with you, how can they do that?
Awesome. Yeah, if you want to get in touch with me, I am at Jazz Keys across all social media platforms. That's JAZZKEYES. Find me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, www.jazzkeys.com. And yeah, pretty easy, pretty simple to reach.
Yes, and she has an assistant now, so this is a good thing. Fabulous. Go ahead.
Yeah, I do. Much needed, and she's amazing.
Long overdue. Long overdue. This is fantastic. Any vision of things you're going to look at doing in 2018 that we should be keeping our eyes on?
So I am getting ready to enter into a complete rebranding process, centering around just being an empowerment coach for women in the elements of parenting, business, and healing. A mother-daughter 3-day conference coming up July in Atlanta. Really excited about that. And then hopefully in another 3-4 months, I'll be submitting my curriculum to get certified so I can start training coaches to get their certification through my program.
Wonderful. And I'm sure there's things you didn't even think about that will come up anyways, but I'm sure, and maybe once in a while you'll do stuff too.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's a given.
Okay. If you say so, it's live, it's recorded, you heard her, folks. All right, well, again, thanks again. For myself, I am Dr. Vibe. I'm host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe show. I'm also host and producer of Stuff, on various amounts of epic conversations. For me, if you want to listen to replays of my YouTube conversations, you're on my YouTube channel, so check them out there. Over 400 replays of epic conversations and almost 300 people subscribing the last few months, so thank you so much. And if you're up to it, please subscribe to the channel. It'd be appreciated. If you want to listen to replays of my video epic conversations, you can go to my website, thedrvibeshow.com. You can also go to Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, Stitcher Radio, Google Play Music Store. Also, you can hear selected replays at thegoodmenproject.com and also at wjmsradio.com. I'm also a certified empowerment coach, president and CEO of Express Your Vibe Coaching Communications. If you'd like a complimentary session, please touch base with me via Twitter at drvibeshow, email address dr.vibe@thedrvibeshow.com. I'm also a brand ambassador for Cuisine Noir magazine, the only online magazine dedicated to African Americans in food, wine, and travel at cuisinenoirmag.com. Also have a service offering called Getting Media Coverage, where I help businesses and entrepreneurs get media coverage so they can elevate their business. So if you want to talk about that, most definitely. Another thing I do have to add, you can now hear me live on Friday mornings at 7:20 a.m. Eastern Time at WURD Radio in Philadelphia. It is Philadelphia. It's Pennsylvania's only on only radio station, black owned. So they're on AM, FM, and online. I'm on there now every Friday morning, 7:20 a.m. with Christopher Flood, the drummer Norris. We talk about the week that was, and we just do a commentary 1 hour about news stories that have happened over the past week, and probably I'll be on another day during the week in the near future. So that's something that was put in my lap. Flood asked me if I wanted to do it. I said sure. So that's one of the ways I've started off 2018, and a number of different opportunities that will be coming. So, as always, I like to say 3 things at the end of my epic conversations with Jazz and anybody else. I like to say, 1, live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Second of all, sometimes you have to get smaller to get stronger. And finally, God bless, peace be well, keep the faith. Thank you so much for watching, and there is going to be more epic conversation to come with Dr. Vibe and Jazz in 2018. So God bless, peace be well, and keep the faith.